Pretty much marking the end of the first quarter of the new millennium, I thought we should look at what were the best selling comics of each year from 2000 to 2010. Let's get started. First up, we have Uncanny X-Men number 381, which had about 190,000 units sold. What's interesting about this is it happened right after the fall of Apocalypse, the 12. Cyclops became Apocalypse for a little while there, and they were starting this new Revolution era with new teams, and it didn't last too long, but this is probably the last time the X-Men reached the heights of the best-selling book for at least a decade. Then we had the sequel almost 20 years into make it, The Dark Knight Strikes Again. Frank Miller comes back. It was pretty much the biggest sequel at the time for a comic that changed comics. This one sold about 188,000 units. Then Marvel actually got the Avengers on the tongues of the entire world again. This is before the Avenger movies. This is 2002. They were not a big seller. But the Ultimates pretty much said what would happen if the Avengers formed today in the year 2000. And this was the crowning jewel of the Ultimate movement between Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Spider-Man. This with its movie quality visuals that literally led to Sam Jackson being cast as Nick Fury in the Avengers movie. 160,000 units sold. Next up, a pretty big boy here. This was Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb on Batman. Oh my God, 619. This issue sold 235,000 units, and you know why? Hush. It was the first time we saw Tommy Elliott in that now iconic Hush costume with the bandages all around the face, holding the two pistols. And Jim Lee, not to be outdone with the ending of Hush, jumped right over and went to Superman, which had its best-selling year ever, after really Superman books not being able to push that much since the death of Superman in the early 90s. Superman 204 sold 244,000 copies. Power of Jim Lee. Before there was absolute Batman, there was DC's trying to revitalize and start over again with the All-Star line. And a lot of us remember All-Star Batman and Robin. Oh boy. But again, the power of Frank Miller, The Dark Knight Strikes Again, and Jim Lee made this a hell of a seller, with Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder #1, selling 275,000 copies. The world loves a reboot, even if it only lasts about a year. In 2006, we had Civil War #2, and this thing got national coverage because the big reveal was that Peter Parker showed the world that he was Spider-Man. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing about this book, and because of that, it sold 355,000 copies and pretty much started this yearly tradition of Marvel doing a big event every summer. And right at the tail end of Civil War, we had another huge moment happen in Marvel with Captain America #25. This is the infamous issue where Sharon Carter winds up shooting and killing Captain America. And while it didn't reach the heights that Civil War did, this still sold about 317,000 copies. And keeping that event truck rolling with Marvel, we had Secret Invasion #1. If I knew then what I knew now, that we'd be getting these huge events every summer for the next 20 years. Some hits like this, some misses. More misses than I'd like to say. But it was on the tip of everyone's tongue. You had to know who was a Skrull and how far back it had gone. And because of that, this sold 263,000 copies. And probably the biggest seller through the entire decade has to be the Amazing Spider-Man #583 with 535,000 copies. I give you one guess as to why this sold so many issues. Yes, Spider-Man met Barack Obama. Enough said. And after the Secret Invasion and the Dark Reign, we were finally entering a good era for our heroes. We were on the cusp of the MCU. The Avengers was going to be a big thing. And #1 in 2010 sold only 117,000 copies. A huge drop off from the previous year. But even with that little bit, it showed that Marvel was pretty much now here to stay with the backing of Disney, and will be dominating the sales charts for years to come. Or would a little indie book dealing with zombies have something to say about that?